queers! What's on the big gay agenda today, Theora?
Today, it's that time of month. It's book club.
What time of the month? Yeah!
I'm sure to throw people off their game. And today, our queer book is a long-anticipated book we've actually talked about quite a few times on the podcast, randomly, or some not so randomly when we were covering Heartstopper. So today we're going to talk about Solitaire, which is really the first book of the Heartstopper series, and honestly, such a beautiful story, and we're very excited to get into this one because there's a lot going on. It's so fun. If you're new to book club and you're here to join, welcome. In case you were unaware, what we usually do on the podcast is we read the book together. We pick a book of the month, like Solitaire was our book last month, and we read it together and we talk about it in our Discord server, as kind of like an informal virtual book club. So if that's something you're interested in doing for future book clubs, please follow us on social media where we kind of announce the book, and join our Discord where we talk about it and just kind of have a lot of fun. And we incorporate those discussions into the episodes when we record them, like right now. So in case you're unaware, come join us next time for a good virtual book club time. Kaitlynn left to go join the Discord.
Well, how could I not? The Discord sounds like so much fun.
It's so much fun. And plus you could just connect with other queers and have fun. And we just talk about everything, anything, mostly pets. So if you're into that.
There are a lot of pet photos. There's a channel just for pets.
Just for pets.
But it's a place to be able to scream about your favorite media or something that happened that you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
With other people who think just like you. It's a great time. Also, if you are just listening, you can't see that we have Alayne joining us again today.
Hello.
Yes, welcome.
Yay!
She is a resident Heartstopper, Alice Oseman extraordinaire intelligent
I don't know.
You're our expert. You're our subject matter expert.
I think I'm just hyper-fixating. I think that's really the proper term, but sure.
That leads to expertise, though.
Yeah.
You're on the right track.
That's fair.
So, welcome. We're so excited to have you back.
Yay!
Thank you for having me again. It's good to be back.
So excited. Other thing, just a little housekeeping thing. For book club in general, if you ever want... So we've done several book clubs that were books that were recommended to us by listeners. So if you have a book you'd like us to cover on the podcast, please let us know. Tag us in a social media post, come into the Discord, and we will fit it into our routine. We also are looking for new books to expand our queer little horizons. So just let us know, and we'll cover it.
We get some great books from suggestions. And
Yes.
We've done a few already.
We sure have. And so just to let you know, if you're new to book club, the format of this episode is going to be in the beginning. If you've never read this book before, that's totally fine. In the beginning, we're going to give a little spoiler-free synopsis of the book and our little spoiler-free reviews. And then after that, we'll warn you when we're transitioning into the spoiler section, when we're going to discuss everything and anything about this book.
Yes. But before we get into that, if you are watching this episode on YouTube, please make sure that you are subscribed, you like this video, and leave a comment, your thoughts on the book, on the episode, in life in general, whatever you want, let us know in the comments. Yeah. If you're listening on podcast channels, make sure that you follow the podcast, review if you can. If you can't review on your current platform, find a place to review it. We love them. We just love to hear your thoughts about what you're listening to. And what can we do better to make it better for you? Because, we do this for you. Make sure if you love the content, you want early access to videos, reaction videos to different media, full length, come join us on Patreon. We have some exclusive content over there as well. It's a great time. You can join our chaos crew and be a part in deciding what we cover on the podcast as well, which is always a great time. Like we mentioned before, come join our Discord to talk to us because we love engaging with all of you. And follow us on all social media platforms at Big Gay Energy Pod, because with you following us, joining us, sharing our podcast with other friends and people you are helping us spread the joy of queer content and allowing us to make more for you. And we love what we do. So please help us.
Yes. All right. Now, after you've done your charity work, come back and listen to this episode, because right now we're going to talk about Solitaire by Alice Oseman. Oseman. I say it wrong every fucking time.
Alayne,
right?
Oseman?
I think it's Oseman. That's what I've heard.
Cool. Every time. Oseman. Alice.
I
Oseman.
corrected Theora the first time and I said Osman. And then you
And-
corrected us in the other one, so now I know it, but now I have to tell Theora that I was wrong the first time. And
My brain won't listen.
To be fair to Theora, I have heard, like, in interviews, like, some of the other cast members of the show have pronounced it Osman. So, like, does anybody actually know for sure? Who knows?
it's spelled like Oseman.
Yeah.
I will agree with that.
I think I've heard Alice herself say Oseman, if I remember right.
Okay.
But
That's helpful.
I'm not sure.
We're just gonna say the god of
the
Heartstopper.
queen. The
Alice.
queen, yeah.
So God Alice.
The asexual Jesus.
Asexual
Hell
Jesus.
yeah, there we go.
You know what? You're right. Asexual Jesus Alice. That's what we're calling Alice from now on. Okay. So I actually did post about this book club on YouTube, and we did get a couple of comments from our listeners that were super excited about this. So I'm gonna shout them out and kind of like read their thoughts now in our non-spoilery section. So first comment we got was at That's My Usborn book. I think I'm saying that correctly. I hope. Thank you for your comment. This listener said, love that you're doing this book. Just in case you didn't know, it's the first novel the author wrote set in the Heartstopper universe, but the timeline, it comes in the middle of Heartstopper book 4. Heartstopper is the prequel series to Solitaire. So we covered Heartstopper volume 5 that just came out recently, and book 4, I'm pretty sure, is something that's going to be covered in season 3 of the show. So it's really interesting the way this book falls, like kind of almost like in the middle of that whole series, which is really interesting. All right. Second comment we got is from at I just listen to queer fiction P2195. Love that handle. This listener says, I loved Solitaire. To be the first book Alice Oseman wrote is pretty good, especially Tori's character and her relationship with the people around her. Especially the guy with ADHD, Michael Holden, I think is the name. You are correct, listener. That is the name.
That's a great comment. I love that. Like, I think that's the same.
I love it. So yeah, so that's a little synopsis from our listeners of kind of like their thoughts and what the book is about. I'm going to read the Goodreads synopsis because I thought this was really clever and I actually really like it instead of rewriting it. So this is the synopsis from like the book cover, I think. In case you're wondering, this is not a love story. My name is Tori Spring. I like to sleep and I like to blog. Last year, before all that stuff with Charlie, and before I had to face the harsh realities of A-levels and university applications and the fact that one day I really will have to start talking to people, I had friends. Things were very different, I guess, but that's all over now. Now there's Solitaire and Michael Holden. I don't know what Solitaire are trying to do, and I don't care about Michael Holden. I really don't. So I love that's the synopsis.
Sure,
I love Tori.
I love that I don't care about Michael Holden. I really don't.
I really don't.
I really don't.
Sure, girl. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we're going to give our spoiler-free review of this book. So in 5 words or less, how would you guys describe Solitaire?
This word limit has been increased from 3, so
Yeah.
just saying.
Well, it used to be like a 5-minute rant, so now I'm trying to limit it, so this is faster. So I'll give mine. Mine is, my review of this book is, it's funny because it's true.
I said cards on the table. If you've read it, you might get it.
I read it, and I'm having trouble getting it. That's just my issue. Anyway.
I can't explain it or else it'll spoil it.
Jump to the spoiler section if you want to know more.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Kaitlynn?
Mine is the dark thoughts written down, and I love it.
Yeah. Tori goes through it. Okay. Last part of the spoiler-free review is our Big Gay Energy Scale rating. So this is something we've been doing for a while from our Big Witch Energy days. It's basically a synopsis of how queer we think it is in our own descriptive way. It's super scientific and stuff. So I would say Solitaire has enough big gay energy to fill a Michael Holden-sized speed skating outfit. And if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about.
What did I put? I said so much gay energy that it inspired Alice to go on to write bigger and even gayer stories, aka
Yes.
And
Heartstopper.
that is very
Woo.
true.
And thank asexual Jesus for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is that it has so much that it makes people feel seen.
Yeah.
That's powerful. I love it. All right, everyone. Well, now we've reached the spoiler section. So if you haven't read it, turn this off, go read it, and then come back because we're about to talk about everything and anything Solitaire. All right. Elena, would you like to lead off the spoiler section?
Oh, do I? It's me.
I think your point is first.
Okay. So first of all, can we take a second to acknowledge this was Alice's not only their first novel, but this was published when the first time around when it was published was they were 19 years old. They were still, I want to say they were still at university when they published
I think
this.
you're right.
And since then, like, this new version is like a rewrite. It's been republished and like modified. Obviously, like, she has matured in her writing since then. So she's said like gonna just kind of modify things. So yeah, but yeah, this was first published when she was 19 years old, which is wild.
That blows my mind. And the fact that Alice is so young and it's already been republished, like, that's crazy. I'm like, what have I done with my life? Like,
I know.
You started the podcast, Theora.
I did. But still, like, that's insane. And to have then created Heartstopper, which is it's just the whole universe she created that started from her first book has just impacted so many people's lives. Like, that is so special and just amazing, truly.
It has.
Damn,
Like,
it's so impressive.
that's why she's asexual Jesus. Lesbian. No, asexual Jesus. That makes.
Alice has
Asexual
magical
Jesus.
powers.
Queen of queer, asexual Jesus.
Agreed. All of Alice's books are just so well done. It's just amazing that this was the first one too, and it is a very well done book.
Yeah.
A lot of the things I noted in this book were very early on. Most of it was just trying to me figure out who Tori is. All I knew of Tori was Heartstopper because I read this. So Theora and Alayne, I believe, read this before Heartstopper. I did not.
No, I didn't.
Oh,
You
before
didn't?
reading Heartstopper? No, yeah, no, I found Heartstopper first online, like way
Oh,
too
okay.
long ago.
I was wrong.
Yeah.
They just know more than me. I
This
read
was
it for the first time.
This was the first like Heartstopper universe book I read. Like, I started with Solitaire before I read the comics. Like, I found the show first,
Okay.
and then found this book. Actually, I read a different book of Alice's book first, which was I Was Born for This.
Oh,
And then-
man, yeah.
Yeah, I found it during the trans rights readathon that was going on because there's a trans character in there. It's a really good book. And then I went to Solitaire after that and was like, okay, I have a bigger appreciation for Tori after reading this, and then went and read the Heartstopper graphic novels. I did it a little out of order.
Okay, this was my first time reading this in general. So the first thing I noted was in chapter 1, very early on, when she says, "My name is Victoria Spring. I think you should know that I make up a lot of stuff in my head and then get sad." And I just thought that that was relatable because I tend to, in one way, either make up things that I hope that would happen and then get sad, or make up things that in interactions, like, oh, this person doesn't like me, or like they're thinking this, and then get really sad. So I think there's a lot of different aspects around this. And maybe she really does care more than she's letting on.
I don't care. Okay, girl.
Unprompted has to say, I don't care, without anybody asking.
I know. In her own inner monologue. That's my favorite.
Right.
In her brain. Yeah, I think I have a couple of things about Tori throughout this where she felt very relatable as a person and a very introverted human being. What I love about this particular line too, coming from Alice, is like it kind of sets up the fact that like Tori might not be a reliable narrator because you're going to see things through her perspective, and a lot of it's an inner monologue, and she's just saying, "Listen, I make up a lot of stuff in my head, so like maybe don't believe everything I'm telling you." So I love that too.
I did not get that. That's a really good point, though.
What is the truth?
what is the truth and like the actual truth really though?
That's kind of the
Because
scope of this
is
podcast.
there an actual truth in life? Who knows?
Your own.
Only
That is-
asexual
that
Jesus
is the only
knows.
truth. That's my philosophy. The only truth is your own.
You know what? Cheers to
Yeah.
that.
Sure, I don't know.
All right. The next thing that I noted was also in chapter. There's a lot in chapter 1. Chapter 1
There
is there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Another thought she has is, but personally, thinking or talking too much about boy issues
Air quote.
makes me want to shoot myself in the face.
Girl.
Also relate.
So
I
relatable.
mean, yes, I relate. No, but not as that I didn't highlight it because it was relatable. I mean, it is, but I highlighted it because I noticed that she was very violent towards herself. So she more so internalizes the emotions rather than like giving it to other people. Like she doesn't lash out at people. Really, she internalizes all of the anger. So she's more like, oh, I'm terrible. I don't like this. So she beats herself up. And we do see that happen throughout the book where she blames herself for things when it's not her fault. Like she should not be responsible for her brother. All of these people she should not be responsible for, but she feels like she needs to be there. She's the reason why things go bad. And I want her to love herself, and I'm sure that's how everybody feels about someone in their life that they know internalizes this anger.
Yeah, it's amazing how similar her and Charlie are in that aspect, like in their own heads. Like Charlie, you see it more in the show, especially like the way that Joe portrays him. It's like he thinks he's such an inconvenience, and you never really think about it because Tori obviously is kind of a side character in the. She should be on more because she's amazing, but she will be hopefully. But yeah, to your point, like she has all of that same stuff going on in her head, and they don't really talk about it in the show, just because she's not the protagonist. But in this book, you really get that full scope of her head. Like it's the exact same thing. It's like, oh, siblings. Ugh.
I mean, yeah, her and Charlie are basically the same, and both have issues in their own way. Obviously, Tori doesn't have the eating disorder.
Yeah.
But she can understand what he's going through, and I think that makes it even worse for her because when he gets bad again, like she doesn't realize it because she's going through her own stuff. But she's like, then why am I not able to see that through him? But I think we will get into that in a little bit as well.
Yeah. To you guys' point, like I never really thought about that with the two of them, so that's interesting perspective. You both just shared the way they're so similar, because usually people who are very similar usually don't get along super well, which I think is part of the problem with like their mom. Like I think the mom has some tendencies like that where she's very internal and isn't external with her affection and things like that, so it causes friction with the kids. Mom has other issues, but like I think that's part of it. And so it's interesting that Charlie and Tori are like the most bonded of the family members, and that's pretty consistent in Heartstopper and Solitaire, like all of it. So it's really interesting the fact that they're so similar, yet they have such a strong bond with each other. I think that's really interesting and special with the two of them.
Yeah, just
cute babies.
I'm glad that they have each other.
Yes,
they just need to communicate more together so they don't feel like they need to take care of each other.
I know
it's hard. They're learning.
Yeah. Also, another thing that I noticed early on was, I mean, she literally says that her and her mom don't like each other, but when she needed to get stuff for sixth form, she had to go shopping by herself because mom and dad were busy. And I know this isn't really related, but I really don't understand why they say mum, but they don't say dud.
I think it's an O, like an A to. I don't know. If you're from the UK, leave it in the comments. Why isn't it dud?
I don't know. That's where my brain went. Sorry. Okay. But anyway, so she had to take herself, and I think at that age, a lot of people go shopping by themselves, but she noticed that they were busy. They're too busy for her. She doesn't feel like she has that support system, so she's taking care of herself more. And because the parents are busy, I feel like that also puts her in a place of where she feels like she has to take care of Charlie and Oliver as well. Which one of my notes in the book was Oliver question mark in the first time that I started reading it because I didn't read the comics at all.
He wasn't in volume 5. I thought Oliver was in volume 5.
No, he was, but you had me start reading Solitaire for the first time before we read any of Heartstopper.
Got it.
And so this the second time I got through 54 pages and then had to restart.
I see.
And then I understand.
Yeah.
There's just this random 7-year-old in their house building a truck with his brother, a tractor. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Like, who is this child?
I'm like, Oliver, where did this kid come from?
I can understand why that'd be so confusing. Yeah.
Oh my god, seriously.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to see that she like accepts the fact that her mom doesn't like her, and she's like, I don't like her either, so it's fine. Because the parents are supposed to be there for you and your rock, but Tori has to be there for herself, and I think that makes a lot of things harder for her. And then, but also I was curious because I was thinking about how it's Tori's point of view more. Is it because she didn't let her mom in? And it's just her point of view?
I have to wonder if it's maybe a little bit of both. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously, like, we know in hindsight reading, like, Volume 5 of Heartstopper, like, the mom's been through her own stuff. Like, we know that now, but, like, in this book, you have no idea. And obviously Tori has no idea because her mom doesn't talk about it. So, sounds like it might be... Maybe it's both.
Basically, this family needs to communicate.
This whole family needs therapy.
Literally.
I think they're actually going to therapy in this. Yeah, they're actually going to therapy in this book slowly. So they're working on it.
But yeah, it a lot of their interactions with the mother read as the mom's very dismissive of the children. A lot of like mom is trapped in her own world and is pretty dismissive of. She's always busy with work. Like there's a scene later. I don't know if we talked about it, with like Tori's where she's like, my skirt needs to be ironed. Can you help me? And mom's like, put the other one on. And Tori's like, it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
It's never fit. I need help. And mom's like, Tori, I'm not doing this for you. Like, so it's like her needs aren't being met.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's hard to like. That I am with you where I think it's there's a little bit of both perhaps because that's kind of clear to be like mom doesn't have time for me kind of thing versus just like but it could have started with Tori internalizing everything and not being affectionate, letting her mom in, and then it just like festered into what it is now. So like who knows how it started when like Tori was younger, And we know from Heartstopper that like Charlie seems to have a similar relationship with the mom too, where there is miscommunication happening when they're talking to each other. That kind of reads as dismissive in a way, like from mom's point of view. So it might be a bit of both, but like I think mom's personality seems to be consistent with both kids. So maybe it's not just the point of view, But that's an interesting point. Something I love from Tori, and so chapter 1 is basically like setting up who Tori is, which is I think why we have so many things from chapter 1 because it's just like we're getting to know all these things about Tori.
Yeah, because we don't get to know it in Heartstopper, which we really need to. I'm really hoping that she gets more.
There's supposed to be more, yeah.
I'm so excited. But I get it. She's the side character in there. I totally get it. But so it's interesting to like learn things about her because she's very interesting. And we're hearing it from her head, which I mean, she said she's unreliable, but some of the stuff is pretty revealing. So one of the quotes I really love is she says in her brain, I'm a vacuum, I'm a void, I am nothing. And this is what Tori's inner monologue is after Michael Holden introduces himself to her and asks who she is. That's how she thinks of herself. So for me, the first impression I got of Tori was like, wow, her mental health is in the toilet. Like her self-esteem is in the toilet. This character reads as deeply depressed. And I think that was pretty consistent throughout the novel, which is something I really loved about the way Alice wrote Tori, because to me, her mental health state felt so visceral, like so real throughout the book that it was like painful sometimes to just like listen to the way Tori thinks about herself. It's so like dark, you know?
It is. Like, you knew exactly, like, from the very beginning that she had mental health issues. Whereas, like, you don't get that with Charlie. Charlie, like, really tries to hide it, but because it's this actual book and you hear Tori's thoughts, we get to know her better through this. And then, yeah, it's just... I felt it.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that like Alice was like, we're starting with depression. Like this character is different. We're starting with it. Like Charlie goes on the journey of like his mental health decline, whereas Tori, we're starting with the decline. Like it was just an interesting choice. I found it interesting.
Tori's been through it. Tori is the epitome. Like Tori is the emotion depression in Inside Out too.
Yeah, totally.
But does Tori know that? Is Tori aware that she's depressed? That's the real question, because she says, I am a vacuum, I am nothing, or I'm a void, I'm nothing, but does she realize that that's her basically saying, I'm depressed?
I don't think she is. I don't think she's self-aware at the beginning.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it at all.
No.
Well, also because their family is not really one to talk about emotions in general, so I don't even know if she knows how to identify.
Yeah, what is her viewpoint of what depression is? Because, like, when you're young, it's like depression and like those mental health things are like such a specific idea in your mind. And so when you hear like trauma, you think, oh, it's big things that happen to you. It's like, it can be little things too. And you learn that as you go. So it's like, does she even know like what depression looks like and that it can look like many things? Who knows?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think we'll get into the Michael Holden stuff, but I think that's why Michael Holden's such a big catalyst for her. Because I don't think she was self-aware until she meets him.
Yeah.
But I have many things to say about Michael Holden. What a character. But let's move on to chapter 2. So something I loved in chapter 2 is it's the start of Tori's "it's funny because it's true" line. And she says this multiple times. It starts when she's talking to like her friends, and like it's almost like said in like a sarcastic, self-deprecating kind of way. And to me, it read as like a defense mechanism where Tori is making jokes at her own expense to hide the fact that she's not quite happy or like doesn't feel normal in certain situations, or it's the depression she's not aware she has. So it's like she's wearing this mask of humor and indifference, like the void, but to hide the fact that she's deeply hurt, or perhaps unconsciously to protect herself if she's not aware that she's like really sad and depressed. So I thought that was an interesting line to keep coming up, because that type of behavior is I found that relatable, you know, that hiding behind humor stuff. And that's like a character quirk of Tori's that comes up over and over and over again throughout the book.
It's easier to hide behind humor than to actually let people see what's going on.
Yeah.
And Tori also has this perspective where she feels like people are fake in real life, and like people online are more real. So when she's having she's usually is thinking these thoughts when she's having real life interactions, or says it out loud when she's having face-to-face interactions. So I think there's like a bit of dissociation happening with Tori too, where she's like, I feel more like me on the internet than like in real life, where I'm like pretending to hang out with these people I don't really like, and I'm with my family and I'm not super happy with them all the time. So
Tori has a lot going on.
Tori does have a lot going on. And things ratchet up when she discovers Solitaire, which is like the name of the book. So basically the way this goes down is she's in the hallway and sees these Post-it notes with arrows, and she basically follows them and ends up in a room where she finds the Solitaire blog on an ancient computer, I think. And I found this whole sequence really interesting, because when we first, like we've kind of established, Tori seems very indifferent to a lot of things when we first are introduced to her. So the fact that she was following these Post-it notes, I found to be a really interesting thing. It almost seemed out of character in a way, because she was so curious that she actually did an action and like went after this thing. It seemed really interesting. And then Solitaire becomes this like mini obsession that she has that ratchets up as the book goes on. She spends a lot of time thinking about this blog, and eventually like despises the methods they use. So it's like she's using up a lot of mental energy on Solitaire, which is really interesting. Whereas before it was like she doesn't spend a lot of mental energy on anything outside of like her little like cocoon world in her room. So I found that to be really interesting about Tori, the way she's just like drawn to this thing.
I think she's really curious in general, though. Like she pretends not to be, but
she doesn't care.
Yeah, no, not at all. But she's very observant. You see her like whenever we see her in Heartstopper, she just has her diet lemonade, like literally watching.
Oh, that's so great.
She's a very curious person and observant. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I think the thing that really made the obsession take root with her, with Solitaire in particular, is because I think Tori felt seen for the first time in a really long time by Solitaire. And I don't think she was aware of it until like later on in the book when she starts like literally has like the red string yarn wall when she's trying to piece things together. Because a lot of the things that they were doing were like, she's like, oh wait, Star Wars, I used to be obsessed with that. Or like a violin, I used to play the violin. So it's almost like in a way with Solitaire, she was kind of like rediscovering who she was, like parts of herself she like forgot about or has been neglecting. So I think that's kind of what like unconsciously drew her in and then like kept her hooked, was like she almost felt this connection because it was like she was seeing parts of herself again, which I thought was
I wonder why she connected so much to Solitaire.
Hi, Kaitlynn.
Kaitlynn made a dramatic exit.
Oh gosh.
All right. Then in chapter 3, Tori says this thing where she says, I'm more of a blog than a person. And this is I also found this kind of relatable, but also like it speaks to like her mental state and how she sees herself in the world, because she lives vicariously online because her real life isn't fulfilling and it feels fake to her. Like she says things like, oh, people basically, she says this quote where she's like, it's not acceptable to say sad things out loud in the real world without people thinking you're attention seeking. And I hate that, because she's like, I can express how I'm actually feeling on the internet, like shouting out to the void of my blog or whatever. And that's cathartic to her and people respond to her. And she's like, other people do that. That's real versus like pretending I'm okay. It's funny because it's true kind of stuff. So I found that kind of relatable, where she's like, I think I find people I connect with more on the internet. And is that your question, Kaitlynn?
Yes.
Okay.
I had a question that I actually thought of while reading it, and I was curious if you relate to Tori as well, with her only being able to find people who are like her online.
I wouldn't say only, but there's a higher chance of finding people with niche interests that you have, because you can find, I think online is a way to find community of like-minded people, like fandoms, for example. And so like you can find that connection, which is kind of like what Tori's journey is. She's like, I'm looking for people who are also feeling these sad things that I'm not feeling, because like the real world tells me you have to be happy all the time and things like that. So I think that is true to an extent. But I think you can find people like that in real life. It's harder to be like, how do I Google a place that I can go through with sad people that will talk about sad things? Like, you know what I mean? It may not be instantaneous.
That is therapy, Theora.
I guess you go to therapy and then you'll find those people. That's true.
That was just funny.
Group therapy, actually, yeah, that is how I met.
Oh my god. That's called therapy, Theora.
Tori needed to go to therapy.
Oh my god.
What about you, Alayne?
I'd say, I mean, the same thing like with fandom for sure, yeah. Like specifically Heartstopper as an example, but also like my obsession with certain video games. I'd say like finding people who match that energy, specifically for that fandom, absolutely, hands down. Like, it depends on what it is that you're trying to connect with. Like I've met people in real life now, but I also live in one of the most populated cities in the country now, so that's kind of an advantage, that I meet a lot of people who are very passionate about some of the things that I am, about the same level. But like, you know, when it comes to like my obsession with The Legend of Zelda, I don't really know anybody IRL who will just like yap with me for 5 hours straight about how great Breath of the Wild is. So I feel like, yeah, I mean, and it's so much easier on the internet to like go into tags. Like tags are a thing, and so it's like you could literally just go into the tags on Tumblr or AO3 and be like, these people here, they like this thing. Let's talk. Let's connect. So yeah.
I find it very hard to connect with people in real life, mostly because I tend to share things too quickly with people.
Mood.
And that's not okay in real life.
Trauma dumping.
That's what Tori's saying, guys.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
Not all my stories apparently are fun. And I don't know when to shut up.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't do well with people in real life. But gotta work on it. Then I'd rather just go fly and see Theora.
But I'm with you guys. I like what you said about people matching the energy level too, because that's also very true. Like you might find people in real life who are like mildly interested, but you're like
Literally
at 100, they're at like 20. So like,
No one's at my level in real life of talking about TV shows.
yeah.
No one.
Literally all my
I've
friends.
tried.
Yep.
I've tried so hard.
same seas.
Which is why we have this podcast now.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. Online people.
Yeah. So speaking of people who are at 100, let's talk about Michael. Michael Holden's always at 100. All right, so let's talk about them. So they do this thing where I think the first time they hang out outside of school is at this pizza parlor. And there's an interesting interaction that happens between Michael and Tori. They're in a group of friends, but he has this moment where he has like a real assessment of Tori and she kind of clocks what's happening, where he mentions out loud, you act like you don't care, but if you keep carrying on like this, you will drown in the abyss you've imagined for yourself. And like the friends call him a stalker for that comment, but Michael counters with, I'm just observant. And like, damn, like what, he like clocks Tori immediately, like he barely knows her and just like is like, I see you, Tori, like for exactly what you're doing. It's just like, wow.
Right? And he's like saying, oh, I just found you on Facebook, and they're like, you're a stalker. It's just like, you do know like how easily accessible, like on Facebook, like if you're a friend of a friend on Facebook, you can see things very easily, and this person's putting out this information by choice. Somebody going to your profile and like scrolling through like your history. I mean, yeah, we call it Facebook stalking specifically. I feel like there's a reason why we call it Facebook stalking, is because it's like, you know, you can go onto their profile and it's like you have to make the effort to go look at their profile, but it's like it's all out there. Like you made a choice to put it all out there and it's still there. So like it's not their fault your stuff's easy to access.
And then if someone forgets they put it online, it's not your fault that you found it.
Right.
I've had to deal with a lot of people thinking I'm a stalker because it's so easy. It's like literally the first page of Google, people. Right. It's not hard to find out information. But the knowledge that Michael has is more impressive because he is observing and inferring information from what he finds out. And I think this might be the first time someone truly cared about trying to figure out Tori. And that's like an enigma to her because like no one's cared enough to try to see her, especially in real life.
Yeah, and I think my big takeaway from this too is the fact that he says like you will drown in the abyss you've created for yourself. Like to me, that's him being like clocking her depression. And what I found really sad and interesting about that coming from him is that he just met her. And the friends closest to Tori have not clocked that about her. So it's one of those things where like the people closest to you can miss all the signs of like a mental health decline. Like even though they're with you all the time, if they're not observing you, like truly observing you, it can be very missed. And it's easy for Tori to like kind of skate by and mentally decline because her friends are not really paying that close attention to her. And it's more apparent throughout the book when her and Becky start having like, they start kind of pulling apart from each other. And Becky's like, we haven't been normal for a really long time. But like Becky never confronts Tori the way Michael is confronting her and basically saying like, hey, I can see that you're spiraling mentally. And like, if you keep going down this road, this is going to end well for you. And like, I don't think anyone else in her life who's close to her has honed in on her. Not her family. Like, the family's focused on Charlie, and his mental health decline is much more obvious now. But like, Tori is going under the radar and undergoing like a similar trajectory. And the first person who sees that is this stranger that just met her. So that to me was really interesting.
I know it's a little too mainstream, but I think Tori might like some stuff in the Tortured Poets department.
We'll listen to some Taylor Swift.
She would never admit it, though. She would be like, I don't
Never.
care. I don't
Never.
care about Taylor Swift. Like, unprompted, again.
But like, I hate it here.
Yeah.
She would binge listen to that song and then be like, I've never heard it in my life. That's so Tori.
That's so true.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So when Michael delivers this line to her and basically calls her out, it gets to Tori, and she excuses herself to go to hide in the bathroom. And while she's in there, she hears this little voice in her head that reminds her to be chatty, funny, and normal. And so, like, again, showing that, like, Tori is kind of, like, a teeny tiny bit self-aware that, like, she's not okay, and that she has to almost, like, remind herself to, like, act cool in front of other people, which, like, is so sad, but also, like, relatable.
Oh yes, very relatable.
Like, so relatable.
I know this voice very well.
And later when they're alone, Michael makes this comment: for most people, normal is their default setting. But for some, like you and me, normal is something we have to bring out, like putting on a suit for a posh dinner. So I feel like, in a way, the reason why Michael clocked what's going on with Tori is he's like, oh, that's what I do. Like, it's like he's almost like not just calling her out, he was almost acknowledging to her without acknowledging we're kind of the same. Like, I understand you in a way that maybe these other people don't. So I thought that was really interesting because, like, that's a whole other story of, like, what is normal anyway, but I think it's really cute that this is something they bond over, and I love that he said this to her.
It's always interesting to see someone like you, like the same coping mechanisms or dealing with things the same way you do. And then being able to connect with them. The current person that I do that with is a toddler, so
Takes all kinds.
Yeah, so like every tantrum, I'm like, I know exactly what you're feeling, buddy. Life is so rough right now. Like, I will make sure that cookie is not broken when I give it to you, because I know I would go berserk if someone handed me a broken cookie.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's just nice to connect with someone, even if it's a toddler.
I never even thought of it this way, but like, it's interesting because they are so similar, but Michael handles it kind of differently. Like, he puts on such a different mask than Tori does. Tori acts like, I don't care, but Michael is all like, I care a lot, but everything's great. I am very... He's got this very positive energy he tries to exude to kind of mask the pain inside, whereas Tori is like, I just don't care about anything at all. I feel nothing. So it's like, it's so interesting, but they're both feeling like the same thing, like, so out of place. So it's
that
so
is
crazy.
Such a good point.
Oh,
that is such a good point. Yeah, they're like
other.
opposites. They're opposites in how they behave, but like, you're right, the root problem is the same. And what I also love about this too is, like, if you think about them, they're young kids, like, coming into adulthood. Obviously it's a YA book. So like, also, like, what is normal at that age? Like, you barely know who you are. And they're at the cusp of where they have to make decisions about, like, what do I do after this? Like, university, do I get a job? And so it's like they feel lost in a lot of ways. So, like, what is actually normal at that stage? You know?
Right. Yeah, what is normal, and what is, like, what adults have told us is normal because of what media tells us, or what their parents told them. I don't know. And also, like, today's age, what is normal for today's era, which is definitely different from 20 years ago, because technology's different, societal views are different. I don't know, like, what even is normal? Like, I love that a lot of people are not using the word normal anymore. A lot of people are starting to, like, use the word common. Things are common. Like, especially, like, I don't go to therapy right now, so I don't, like, know, like, for sure if this is, like, confirmed, but I hear people talk about, like, when they go to therapy, their therapists don't say normal anymore, they say common. Because to say something's normal is like saying, you know, you're abnormal. But to say something is common is like a way of saying you're not the only one. So I love that that's like a thing now that's being more normalized, is that people say common instead. It's like, I mean, I don't know if it's normal, but it's not something that you're the only one this happens to, so
Yeah, I think I was told something like, I don't know about normal, but it's definitely common.
Yeah.
Power of language. I love that. I feel like that's something both Michael and Tori needed to hear. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. They deserve the biggest hug.
I hope that school brought in a trauma counselor at the end.
Oh my god. Well, I mean, the school was on fucking fire. I hope so too. Jesus Christ.
Wherever they all ended up going had some kind of therapist, some kind of counselor.
Literally.
Yeah, I was like, we never find out where. I said, we don't ever find out what happens to Tori, do we? Anyway, that's wow.
Yeah.
Do we? I don't think so.
Heartstopper, season 5.
I'm waiting for the announcement for season 4. Come on, Netflix. Where is it?
There's gonna be 6 novels. There has to be another season. Like,
I know. Alice even said at one point, like on Instagram, I think it was like at the latest they're gonna have volume 5. But said nothing about volume 6. But she hasn't even finished volume 6. So it's like, what is?
I know. It'd be wild though if this season ends with the school on fire and that's just the end.
Oh my god. I'm just thinking more like.
I thought it's like, I'm like, how are they going to incorporate that into Heartstopper? Are they going to show the school on fire? I'm just curious.
I don't know, because they didn't in the comics, so I'm not sure.
Right. Right. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know, but also, like, Netflix, if they decided not to have a season 4 with this fandom, Godspeed to them. Good luck.
Seriously.
Like, you saw what happened with Anne with an E when that got canceled. Like, that's going to be tenfold that with this fandom. So,
I think Netflix is used to angering all of the fans, so.
Shadow and Bone. Yep. Rip.
I'm still not over Teenage Bounty Hunters, and I will never be over it. Not with that cliffhanger.
Oh, man. Yeah, I hate it. Why did they do that?
R.I.P.
So we never really hear about, like, Michael's home life, obviously. So I don't know how similar he is in the sense of, like, what kind of role he plays in his family, but we definitely know Tori has, like, a very caretaker role that she takes on, with Charlie especially. Like, in chapter 6, when she is with Oliver, they're at dinner. I think she's just come home, from the pizza place. She just comes home. They've had dinner. Oliver's done, because Charlie has to take his time with his. Oliver's playing Mario Kart. Tori sits down and plays with him, and she doesn't keep track of what time it is for his bedtime, which, I mean, she's not his mother. Why should she? Yeah, she's not his mother. She should only be concerned about her bedtime, because that's her problem. And the mom comes in, Jane, she comes in, it's past his bedtime, and she's like, that's not really, she literally says, that's not really my job. And it seems like, their mom, Jane, she kind of, I think Tori says she gives her a very blank look, like a very expressionless look, doesn't say anything else, but she just stands there while Oliver leaves. And then Tori's like, did you want to say something? And then she just walks away. And it's like, I have to wonder if, not that this is what Tori meant by it, but if Jane took that as a jab at her saying, you're not doing your job as a parent. Which is I get where that would be a bit of a stab to the back or whatever, but it's also expecting your child. I have to wonder if that's where Tori's role, that kind of, either it's where it started, maybe not, it could just be where it kind of enforces, where Tori feels compelled to care more for them, but she's trying to fight against it, and then when she does, she gets that reaction. So we have to wonder if that's at the very least part of the influence, where that role, she falls into that role.
But also, who cares about his bedtime? The siblings are bonding, and that's adorable.
Yeah, she's helping him beat Rainbow Road, and I know from experience, that shit's hard.
It is.
I don't even know what CC they're playing on, but if it's on 200, no, I could never. No. Ugh.
I Apparently this household is though like they're like aiming to be experts at Mario Kart. I mean, like Charlie's the expert, and there's Tori, and poor Oliver's trying to catch up. I think at one point he's like, the game hates me or something. It was really cute.
I can't beat Rainbow Road.
So
most
cute.
grown adults can't. It's hard.
It's okay, man.
But also, which one? Because if they're playing Mario Kart 8, like the one on Switch, it's like which Rainbow Road? There's like 6. There's like 5 or 6 now, and they're all hard.
I hate the farm one.
The farm one?
Yeah, there's something with a farm, and I don't like that one.
Is it the one where the cows walk into the road?
Probably.
That
I only know is I always get turned around, and it tells me to turn back around. I run into everything, and it's really annoying.
I like the cows because you can, if you have a mushroom and you go fast, you can hit the cows and they just go flying. That makes me laugh.
That's really funny.
That makes me laugh.
Mario cow tipping.
Yeah.
Maybe another reason to join the Discord. Maybe we should have like a Mario Kart party.
That'd be so fun.
There's online play.
Is there? Wait,
yeah, you can play online.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can play with other people. It can be kind of slow sometimes, just loading, but like. You can play online with other people. You have to have a membership though. But it's like
in honor of Heartstopper. Okay.
Let's play Mario Kart.
We'll play Mario Kart.
Heck
That sounds fun. Alright. One thing though I want to comment though about Tori and the mother relationship. I think that another aspect of why perhaps Tori feels responsible for her brother so much, she's also like the oldest child. So I also wonder if maybe mom expects her to be like a co-parent in a way because like eldest child syndrome.
Yeah.
And so maybe like the blank stare could also be just like, I don't understand what you're saying to me. You're the oldest child. You're supposed to just be the parent kind of thing when I'm not around. But I also like your read that like Jane also seems dissociated from her family. So perhaps it's like one of those things where it's like she's processing the fact that, oh, I'm the parent or something. Like, yeah, it's really hard because like the mom is, I think, I've said this before when we talked about Heartstopper, but I think Jane is also very much like Charlie and Tori, where she's very introverted, very internal with a lot of things. So it's hard to read her. And she's, older with more experience than the kids. So I think like even Tori has a hard time kind of like reading what is going on with her mom too, perhaps. Like, and I wonder if the mom has a bit of depression.
Oh,
no, she has to.
Yeah.
Like, so she's kind of like, she's also like, I don't care kind of thing. And then here's Tori trying to invoke an emotional response. And mom's like, not computing.
I try to remember, is it is it their mom's family that comes to visit in this winter? I think it might be.
I think it was. I don't think it was.
Yeah, I think it was her parents. Yeah, because I know in the books, at some point they come and visit, like Charlie's Spanish grandparents come and visit because he like fails miserably at his Spanish or whatever. So I'm like,
yeah, I remember that.
I was like, was that the glimpse we got into like her home life? Because like we all know like after reading Heartstopper, like her parents are,
yeah,
but and I don't remember if Jane has siblings. If she's like I don't remember.
I don't remember either, to be honest with you.
Or is she an only child? Yeah, I don't remember. We have to look into that. Like,
yeah,
I don't remember.
Yeah, because if she was, I don't recall if she had siblings, and then if she the older sibling, younger sibling, because that could also like impact this whole scene you're talking about with Tori. Like, she definitely has trauma from her childhood. Like, and I wonder if like it's similar.
I think she has siblings because Charlie had like cousins. In this winter, I think that we're right there. I need to. Oh my gosh, I need to go back and read this winter. My gosh.
Actually, I think you're right. I think that was Jane's family because you're right.
Yeah,
there's multiple cousins.
Especially because she was so adamant about this Christmas is gonna be normal. We're not gonna, and like they didn't tell them that Charlie went to the hospital. Like they kept that all a secret. So it's like I wonder maybe that sounds about right. Yeah.
But that makes way more sense than the father's family.
Yeah,
doing that.
Julio's family seems a lot more chill.
I was like they're the less stressful family for visits, and like Jane's family is the stressful family.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense. But then I don't recall like is she the older sibling? Because if she's the older sibling, then that would make sense why she's so hard on Tori.
We have to go back and read this winter again.
Oh, damn.
I did not read this winter. I'm very lost.
It's cute.
Yeah.
Anyway, chapter 7, Kaitlynn.
Yes, chapter 7. So Tori has a habit of just saying no to people, like no to questions, of asking her like how she's doing or something like that. And one of the things she says after saying no is, "I lie a lot for no reason." And I'm just curious why you all think this is.
The only thing I think of is that I think Tori is having a hard time living in reality at this point, because I think it's painful for her because she's unhappy in it. So I think it's easier for her to just lie than to be authentic in real life. I think that's part of her problem. So I think that's why she's just like, it's a reflex where she's just like, I just lie about everything now because, like, what does it matter? I don't care about anything. I think it's part of a manifestation of her depression, maybe that has, gotten worse over time, where like you lie to conceal, how you feel and also like protect yourself. But I think Tori's at the point where she's so depressed where she's just like, I just lie about everything because, like, what's the point? I think that might be why.
My theory is that she lies so she doesn't have to talk or explain things as
Totally.
much. Because it's a lot to have to explain to people, especially when she doesn't seem to be the one to have conversations. She just says the bare minimum. We see that on the phone with Becky. Like, she doesn't want to, like, talk too much. So it's easier for her to say no or I don't know than actually give an answer.
Yeah.
Which is fair. Like, especially if someone's not like someone won't understand the answer. You're like, no, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Get me out of this conversation.
Yeah, I wonder, like, maybe, like, to your point, like, just, it's easier to just say, nah, because trying to open up if they don't understand, I mean, this is maybe just me projecting, but, like, it could be just, like, the fear of, from personal experience, like, having been dismissed, or, like, it sounds like with Becky, like, Becky doesn't understand, so she kind of just shrugs off whatever Tori is dealing with, and she doesn't really seem to bother. And so it was like, maybe there's like this internal fear of like, I'd rather just her not even know than her know and just go whatever, because that would be more painful to be dismissed. So
yeah, I think you're right. And I think part of it too that we do get from Tori in the book is that she compares herself to Becky also, like internally, where when Becky's having the conversation about all the boys she's into, Tori's having this kind of like internal crisis where she's like comparing herself to Becky. And she's like, wow, this makes me feel like shit because I can't get a boyfriend. Like, I feel like I'm failing at life where you're succeeding. So I think that might be part of it too, to engage with her friend where she feels like Becky's succeeding and I'm failing. I think that also is painful for Tori. So I think it's easier to be like, it's funny because it's true, and just be dismissive of it versus just like process the way she actually feels about that in the moment. And a lot of it, she's like, this is ridiculous and stupid, but like, yeah, feelings are ridiculous and stupid sometimes, but like that is how Tori feels, and she just is like ignoring her own feelings. And I think maybe it's a deflection, perhaps, too. That might be part of it. And you're right. And I think that if perhaps she did engage and Becky did dismiss how she really felt, that would crush Tori.
yeah, because that can be very hurtful. Like,
totally,
like to open yourself to somebody and for them to just, I mean, it is like the fear of being vulnerable. It's that person's just gonna take your heart and just crash it on the floor, like, because they just don't care about you the way that you care about them or whatever. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, totally.
Also, notice how Tori always, like, when she talks about Becky, how she feels bad that she's not like Becky. It's always, she feels bad because Becky has a boyfriend and she doesn't, because she's not like Becky, and it's not because Tori never says she wants a boyfriend.
Yes, Alice. Okay, I don't know if you have this later in the notes, but one of my favorite things about reading this book is when I read the new edition, and when I first read it, there's like a Q&A in the back with Alice, I think.
Is there?
At least the Kindle version I read.
It is.
Hold
Okay,
on,
cool,
I have
right.
it. Let me look. Oh my gosh, wait, there is.
Did you read it? Oh my god. It's so good. Honestly,
It
I just
is.
love this Q&A so much. And I think whoever was interviewing her kind of asked her about like Tori and Tori's sexuality. And then Alice was like, I had no idea about myself when I was writing this book. She was 19.
Yeah.
She's like, I had no idea. And then she's like, in hindsight, when I went back and redid the book for the new publication, she was like, it was so obvious to me that Tori was asexually coded as I'm reading. I'm like, wow, damn. I was telling on myself when I wrote this character.
Yeah.
I had no idea, which I love. It's so endearing to hear that.
I love
Because
that.
yeah, to your point, like it's very like, okay, Tori. Yeah, it's so true.
She never talks about Michael in like he's attractive in the sense of like she's drawn to him because of his attraction. She's drawn to him. She's very drawn to him on an emotional level, like very much like personally, like gets to know him and sees his feelings, and like it just says so much that it's a very emotional level for them. Not at all physical.
I think it's also like intellectual too. It's not. There's nothing sexual at all coming from Tori. Like never. She never has a sexual thought like at all.
Right.
Never. That's why like it's so funny. I was like, damn, like this character is clearly asexually coded. Whoops. I didn't even clock that when I wrote it. Just so funny.
It is the epitome of tell me your A's without telling me your A's.
Totally. And then she said something too out in the end, because like I think in the revision she made it much more clear that like Michael is pansexual, but she's like, when I first wrote it, I didn't even have that language to describe him. So like that was something she kind of like added in later when she was like kind of looking at the characters through a different lens. I also thought that was really interesting. Because little 19 that's the whole thing. Like this whole thing is a journey, and like so I love hearing like her perspective of like when I was young, and then now that I know more about myself, like this book said a lot about me, which I thought was so funny. It's great.
It's so relatable there too. God.
It's, right? No, it's so relatable. Like it's just that's one of the reasons I love this book so much. It's just like it's relatable on like the book, and then like how she wrote it or how Alice wrote it, and kind of like looking at it in hindsight, just I love everything about it. It's great. But speaking of Michael and Tori, okay, so let's shoot over to chapter 12, where they watch Beauty and the Beast together. This is one of my favorite scenes for a lot of reasons. Because Tori, as you'd expect from this like cynical human being, is like, fuck Disney.
Disney movies.
Which like she is the person who'd be like, I hate Disney movies.
I don't blame her.
I don't blame her. And also, like, Michael being the super positive one, you'd expect him to be a super big Disney stan, which is exactly their dynamic. And he asks her, he's like, Tori, why don't you like Disney? And Tori says that she doesn't like that these films are fake, where the characters and the story are really perfect. Things don't happen like that in real life. And Michael's like, isn't that the point of films? Like, to escape? So I kind of wanted to see what you guys thought about this, because I love this discussion of theirs. I feel like I relate to this whole discussion a lot, and just see what you guys thought about this.
If you're asking little me was very much, I hate happy endings. I don't want people to be happy. My favorite movie was obscure movie that Brittany Snow did called Hide and Seek, where the ending is just so brutal. There's a lot of death in it, but anyway, like that's what little me, like I made the ending of The Boy in the Striped Pajamas even sadder.
Caitlin, how?
Oh my god!
Was there a nuclear bomb? Like what the?
No, I had the dad like shoot the kid, his child, not knowing that it was him. Yeah, no, I was people should have questioned when I was younger. Now I'm like, I figured out that I am gay, and I'm like, happiness. But like, no, I was a very cynical child. So I'm like more escape with media. But it depends on where you are in life.
I mean, there is that weird fascination, like, with concepts, and just like, that's the thing about fiction. Yeah, is like, it gives you the space to tackle those concepts without harming anyone, thank God. I can only imagine your Google history, what that must have looked like, Kaitlynn.
No, it was just my brain. There's
no
Google involved.
If your brain had a Google search history, that'd be a journey. I swear I'm a writer, me, like, Googling how many stab wounds it takes to kill someone.
Literally.
How deep
Writers
does a
are
stab
all on
wound go?
FBI watch lists.
Yeah, how hard does something have to bite you to make you bleed on your arm? I've definitely looked that up, and it's like, I promise this is for a thing I'm writing.
When I was younger, it was like a mix between me wanting. So basically, they had us like change the ending of the story, and it was fan fiction. So I went from doing that, and then the other part of me was just making the female characters I liked in my shows be together. But I wasn't gay at all.
Not at all. It's for science or whatever.
I feel that 16-year-old me being obsessed with Glee, but it's only the queer characters.
Yep.
Well, let's be fair, they were the best.
They were the most interesting until season 5 hit, and then it was like, why? What have you done?
Yes. Oh dear. Yeah, that show went off the rails.
We have an episode multiple about that.
We have multiple episodes about how that went off the rails. And the queerness.
What was the question? Oh, the film stuff. Jesus. Films are a suspension of reality. Yeah, okay. I see. It depends on the kind of film. I think it's like, I love this new thing. Like Heartstopper is a prime example of like, it tries to be true to reality in a sense of like, this is things that actually happen to teenagers, but it's also in the sense of like healing and optimism of everything's gonna be okay, which it might not be true. Obviously, it's not true for everybody at all. But it's something we want to try to strive more towards being true for more people. Like, yes, it's going to be hard now, but obviously, like, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Everything's going to be okay. You will have, if you don't have a support system now, you will at some point. You just need to find the right people, because there are people out there. And I love that that has become a more normal thing in media, a more common thing in media, that it is, like, some of the things, it is like not a suspension of reality, it's an expansion on reality to the point that it's almost fantasy in a way. But it kind of, I don't know, it makes you, like, wish better for the world. And I love that. Like, we need more of that. The world is a terrible place to live, and we need to normalize media that makes it better.
The non-fake films would be documentaries.
Yeah.
So, technically you do have balance.
Somewhat.
I like your description, expansion of reality. That's a really good way to phrase that, honestly. Because I'm with you. I agree with Tori's sentiment that sometimes Disney films feel fake, is kind of what she's getting at. She's like, this is too perfect. Like, real life isn't this perfect, you know? And there are elements like, I don't know, I feel like I mentioned this a million times when Kaitlynn and I talked about the High School Musical show. It's because, like, sometimes it feels forced, it feels too perfect, it feels fake, and not super grounded in reality. So to contrast like that teenage show with like Heartstopper, to your point, like Heartstopper, the characters feel more grounded, they're more flawed, they're more like human beings versus like perfect caricatures, which I think is what Tori's getting at. And to Michael's point, like, yeah, media is escapism, but media also can be a way to analyze life, like to analyze human behavior, like, and explore it through this fictional world, which is like the kind of media I prefer to enjoy. So I get what both of them are saying, but I'm with you. I prefer media like Heartstopper. It's grounded in reality, but it's also an expansion of that, of like this could be a better way to do things, or this could be healing for people. So I agree with what both of them are saying, and I like the way you put it. That's really good.
Also, just the irony.
So not Glee.
the irony. Also, just like, I know that this book, like, it was written a decade ago, so this wasn't relevant then. But Tori being like, I hate Disney movies, but love Star Wars. I'm just like, well, that didn't age well. Sorry, Tori.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I didn't put that together. That's really funny. I wonder what she thinks about Star Wars.
She probably was. She would have been so pissed hearing that Lucasfilm got sold to Disney, and she's like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah. Again, Tori, relatable.
And there's going to be 3 more movies. No, absolutely not. And then she watches them, and she's like, okay, they're actually kind of good. Dang it.
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, but I don't care.
To wrap up their Beauty and the Beast movie watching, I love at the end of the movie when Tori tells this is a moment where she feels very, very, very comfortable with Michael and is very vulnerable with him, where she tells him all about Charlie. Because he mentions, like, oh, I know of Charlie because he used to go to Troom and now he's at Higgs. And Tori just, like, trauma dumps, basically, all of the Charlie stuff to Michael, which I don't think she really tells anybody truly about what's going on with Charlie. And I love how, yeah, she basically just, like, doesn't keep it bottled up for once, because I feel like that's Tori's default, and it's just a beautiful scene. Because if you think about the Charlie stuff, I think that weighs very, very heavily on Tori. And there's like, who is she going to talk about that with? She doesn't really connect with Becky. Her family doesn't like to truly talk about what's going on with Charlie. Yeah, they're dealing with it and they support him, but they don't communicate. So I like that Tori finally has somebody she can open up to, and just it seems so natural for her to just tell Michael this stuff. And I love that moment with them.
Yeah. Oh man, and then she gets home and like all of her calls.
Oh my god, yeah.
And they get home and take 2 on Tori being a caretaker. God. Yeah, the fact that she gets home. This is what like I thought was crazy. Like it just kind of leads into like another point of Tori, the parents are always busy, and Tori has to take care of things. The fact that when she sees Charlie relapse again, she comes in and finds that he's relapsed. Her first response, like, yes, like, she's talking to Charlie, and he's like, we had an argument, me and Nick, that's why this has happened, I guess, like, but it wasn't his fault, it was my fault, don't call him, please. Her response is to call him immediately. It's not to call the parents. It's not to say, like, to the parents, hey, this is what happened. That's, like, that became an afterthought. Her first response is to immediately call Nick and scream at him, like, do you realize what you've done? Like, and, like, it says so much, I think. Like, she didn't even consider at all calling the parents until after, like, she calmed down. Like, it just shows, like, her parents are not in the slightest, like, the people she turns to in those situations.
Yeah, and particularly when it comes to Charlie too, you know, like who cares about Charlie enough to like help him in this moment? Nick, not the parents.
God, yeah. And who is like, who does Charlie feel safe with? Nick, 100%.
Right.
Parents,
right.
No.
And when she's screaming at Nick, it's and just basically being like, you let me down, Nick, you're supposed to be the one that takes care of him. Because I almost like it's like she feels like the weight of Charlie falls on her and also Nick, not the parents. So like it's really sad. It's like almost like an argument parents would be having about their kid, you know? It's just sad. They're kids. Like, ugh.
Oh my god, yeah. She calls him like, hey, you were literally Charlie's safe place, and now you're the reason he relapsed. So what the hell, dude? So, I mean, obviously, like, Charlie even says, like, it was a mutual argument. It was, like, my fault, which, you know, as far as we understand, it was probably just a mutual, like, they just got heated and Nick left to just get out of the situation because he also was upset. We don't know exactly what happened, but in her mind, it's like, dude, like, you're Charlie's boyfriend. You've been the one who's gotten him through this rough time, and now you're just gonna walk away. It like, to her, in her mind, in her perspective. So she's, like, of course, rightfully so angry about it. And then, of course, obviously, as soon as she calls him, he's just like, wait, what? And she tells him what happened. And, of course, his first instinct is, like, no, I'm coming over. I'm coming back. Like, so we learned, like, yeah, like, he knows he messed up, and it's just, Nick's a good guy.
Nick is such a, oh my god, he's such a sweetie. Even in this book, we don't have like the full breadth of Nick. He's just the actual best. I also wonder in this conversation too if Tori's projecting a little bit here, almost like, because if you think about it, the lead up to this was she was having this really great night / evening with Michael, and then rushed out of there to be in this situation where her perspective of like Nick and Charlie is like they're the perfect couple, basically, coming from like Tori's point of view. Like they support each other, they're very cute, she can clearly see they're in love. And I think she's almost like, wow, what if Michael leaves me and like doesn't support me too? And I wonder if she's like projecting her insecurities of like if this happened to her onto Nick also, to be like, you were supposed to be there and like you're unreliable. And I wonder if that's partially what's going on too.
Maybe.
But baby Charlie. And poor Oliver, to have to be so young and to witness all this stuff with his siblings, and he kind of doesn't fully know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, I hope he's okay when he gets older.
Yeah, he's just like, something's wrong with Charlie. Imagine like when he's a teenager and he finds out the
Yeah,
truth. It's just like, how do you break that news to your kid?
Yeah. Yeah, because like this is almost like going to be normal for Oliver, you know? Like, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So after Charlie's relapse, so basically like Tori like got out of there with Michael and like went home, and afterwards Michael calls Tori to check on her like the next day. And this is like, I think this is where part of the projection comes from. She's surprised that he even called to check up on her, because I think Tori has very clearly been living in the shadow of Charlie's mental illness too, which is why I think partially why her depression falls under the radar, like from her family, because everyone's so fixated on Charlie, because what's going on with him is much more overt, much more obvious. Like he really needed help. They helped him, but they can't see the subtle like things going on with Tori's depression and the way she's unhappy, very withdrawn from her friends, sleeps all day. Like she's clearly not okay, but it's overshadowed by Charlie a bit. And as the older sibling and somebody who obviously loves her brother, she puts on this mask of strength all the time, because I feel like she also feels responsible for Charlie and feels like she has to be strong for him because the parents failed them. Everybody's failing Charlie. I think Tori sometimes feels like she fails Charlie because she's also like, I saw some signs with him and I didn't do anything. And so I think there's an element of guilt there. But for Tori to again feel seen by Michael and then to have him actually just check up on her, not Charlie, but like her, to see how she's doing, I think was such a huge moment for Tori. And it's really sad that she was surprised by that, you know?
I know.
She deserves to have people care about her.
Yeah, I agree. But, you know, this was her Nick moment where she had like somebody who like sees her, cares about her, is her willing to be her support system, which she really needs.
I know. Yeah, she's surprised because it's like, obviously she deserves somebody to care about her, but does she feel that way?
Yeah.
It seems like no, she doesn't.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then after that it's like, chapter 18, they go to Charlie's therapy session. And I think it's the parents go in first, to do a session. And so Tori and Charlie are sitting in the waiting room. And Charlie asks, "Why haven't we been talking?" I don't remember exactly how many days it's been since the relapse at this point, because it's 4 chapters later. I'm like, I don't remember how long it is. It's probably like maybe a week at the most, I would imagine. It's been a few days. But yeah, they go, and he's like, "Why haven't we been talking?" And it's like, obviously, Tori's been very preoccupied with Michael, and at this point, I think Tori and Michael have gotten into an argument about their friendship, so it's like, she's very preoccupied, and so, like, Charlie's like, "We haven't been talking," and she's like, "Oh, that's right." One of my things that I really love about this, like, she has a little bit of an olive branch. She says, she offers to take the bus with him. She explicitly says, like, to herself, she hates taking the bus, but she offers because he always goes. But I love this because it's like, it's a little bit of her trying to step away from being such a caretaker, in a way, because it's like, it's not necessarily caring for him, she's just trying to be beside him and be a safe space for him, which is, I feel like is definitely a much healthier role to take. Instead, when you're literally not the kid's parent, it's like, being a safe space is very different than being the caretaker, obviously. Like I feel like that's Nick for Charlie, is like, he is the safe space, and that's what Tori, I think, wants to be, but she takes on just this big role as the caretaker for him because the parents are not around. But I love that, because this is like a little bit of a balance of her saying, I'll be next to you so that if you need me, I'm here. And I love that. But she's still his sister. Like, and that's what I love. And then
I totally agree with you, because I think that the whole I have to play the role of parent, it changes their dynamic in a way that they shouldn't have to, like, because when we see them when Charlie's having good days, they are partners in a way, like, you know, like siblings, like to your point. And so puts them more on equal footing. They have a lot of understanding between each other. So I think that was a really important olive branch, like you said, to like get their old dynamic back. and reinforce the fact that they really do have a strong bond with each other. So I love that it came from Tori, who, you know, the cold and distant, I don't care Tori. So I love that it came from her and not necessarily Charlie, who Charlie's more of a people pleaser sometimes. So I would imagine the olive branch would come from him. So I like that it's her doing that. I think that showed a lot of maturity from Tori and how much she prioritizes Charlie and her relationship with him, you know.
I know. That's like such a one of those prime, like, saying I love you without saying I love you.
Yes.
Like, I hate taking the bus. Like, it's so terrible, but I'll do it for you.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Oh,
I
it's
agree.
worth it. It's worth it to spend time with you, or if it makes you feel more comfortable. But I also want to spend time with you. It's just like siblings who love each other. It just warms my heart so much. Ugh. Siblings who know how to say I love you without saying it out loud. It's just the best.
It's so cute. Yeah, all the siblings are really cute, and their relationship with each other is really adorable in this series.
I know. And then we get to the awful part with I censor his name, Ben. I love when people censor his name. It's the funniest thing.
That's hilarious.
In fact, and this is like a little bit of a jump to chapter 23. At this point, I think Tori and Michael, like, we've stepped away a little bit from Tori and Michael's drama, and they've, like, made up at this point. Because don't they at some point, like, yeah, they, like, have a talk, and they're, like, friends? I think Michael's...
They're, like... The skating competition comes after this, but they're, like, kind of more on speaking terms, because I think they had the whole situation where he called her a sociopath or a psychopath or whatever, and she was like, okay, and that caused the riff, and they're, like, kind of getting more on speaking terms, but the chapter after this is where they, like, become fully friends again when she shows up for him.
Oh, yeah, okay, because I know that, yeah, they're, like, because at this point, they're, like, outside the school, and they're, like, there's not a tension with them necessarily in the sense of, like, oh, we had an argument and we haven't talked. So I'm like, yeah, they've had a bit of a conversation. Yeah. Meanwhile, Lucas is just being Lucas. God.
He sure is. We didn't mention him yet, but yeah, Lucas is Lucas the whole book.
Also, like, I don't know if you guys have ever read Waiting for Godot, but these, oh my gosh, I'm a theater kid, so, like, I've never seen it, but I know what it's about, and so, like, just, like, him making those jokes just makes me cackle. I'm just like, heh. We're waiting for Charlie. I'm like, heh, heh. It's literally, it's an entire play just about, like, two guys waiting for Godot. And it's actually kind of dark, but so, it just made me laugh, because I understood what it meant, but it was like, oh my. But I love that it's not explained, because it's so true to, like, Tori's perspective of, like, I don't know what it is, I've never seen it. If you know, you know.
It up either.
If you know, you know, kind of thing. But what's so crazy is, like, when they hear, like, Ben punches Charlie. Just straight up punches him in the face, because they're in this argument, and Tori's first thought this time is not to, like, go, like, scream at him, it's to go rush to Charlie's side and be like, are you okay? And so it's like, but this time she's not by herself. That's what I love about, like, the difference is, like, Oliver couldn't have done anything in chapter 13. Like, he's a kid. But in this chapter, like, she's got Nick, she's got Michael, and yeah, she's got Becky and Lucas. Well, actually, no, Becky disappears. Like, Becky's nowhere to be seen. Yeah, she runs away. But she's got, like, she's got them, and then she's got Lucas, who, I don't know, he does something. He's kind of there. But Michael, like, Nick is the one who goes, like, I don't think, he doesn't say it, but he's like, you're dead, Hope, or whatever he says, I don't remember, but he, like, tackles him. Punching his boyfriend, rightfully so. But, Michael goes over and starts, like, asking Charlie, like, does he know his name, and all that, making sure he doesn't have a concussion, and it's like, Tori, there is a little bit of a role of caretaker in the sense of, like, you know, just like, oh my god, you just got punched in the face, but she's not alone this time. And I think that's so huge, and that's such a big contrast to the last experience with it. Because now she's got Michael, she's got Nick, and it's like, she has a group, she has a support system with her that, like, yes, they're there to support Charlie, but they're also there to support her unbeknownst to them, because now she's not by herself, which is huge for her.
Finally in real life instead of just online.
Right? God.
Yeah. It's like a found family moment, and I don't think Tori
Yes.
realizes she's having a found family moment, which also makes it really beautiful because that's kind of how that happens in real life when found families are found, I guess. It kind of just happens naturally, and it's not usually a conscious thing that's happening. So in this scene, that I think that's kind of what's playing out, and it's Tori's not super aware that that's what's happening, but yeah. I love it. And Nick had every right to tackle that bitch.
Hell yeah.
Screw Ben. My God, it's even worse in
Misery.
this book. One of my notes was misery follows everywhere.
I know, this is the new version too, so you hate him even more in the old version. Ugh.
I never read it, so I don't know how bad it is.
I have some notes later on that we can talk about.
Yeah, you need to teach us about all the
teach us.
differences.
I only read this version.
Yeah.
Okay. But to contrast the misery scene, let's go to a super cute, happy scene. I mean, kind of. Happy in terms of like triumphant for like emotionally, not actually. I'll explain. So basically, Michael and Tori, their big like rekindling or like solidifying of their relationship, like on a positive note, is when Michael basically invites her to do something with him on Saturday, and Tori doesn't realize what it is, and then finds out later Michael's in this like big deal speed skating competition. Like he's somebody who like is on track to go to the Olympics kind of thing, and he's in this big competition. And she's like, "Oh crap, that's what you invited me to?" So she like runs over there to support him in the competition. It's so sweet. Like no thoughts. She's just like, "I need to be there to support him. He supports me. I need like that was her instinct, which is huge in terms of her character growth. But she gets there, and basically Michael comes in second, and he's like a competitive speed skater, so he has some feelings about that are not positive. And so this is the first time that Tori actually sees him not being positive. Like he's just like angry and like throwing things, and like because he's got a lot of adrenaline, and this is him like unleashing what he actually bottles up, right? And so she thinks like about him. It's weird how you see someone who smiles all the time and you assume they are happy all the time. It's weird how someone is nice to you and you assume they are a wholly good person. I did not think Michael could be so serious about something. What scares me the most is that no one else seems to notice. And to me, this seemed like this parallel scene to the pizza parlor where Tori is seeing Michael, like truly seeing him when no one else does. And I just love this sentiment because, yeah, there's a lot of time that where people who you think are happy are sometimes the saddest people, actually, because of that whole pretending to be normal thing that they were talking about earlier. And so I like that Tori's having this moment of like, I think like, oh, we are very similar. He's not always happy on the inside. I assumed he was the sunshine in human form. And oh, he's just like me. He has dark feelings and that he needs to express. So I love that she sees that, and like she sees the kinship with him for like what it is. It's such a beautiful moment. And then I love when he's like, "Oh, you did come." That's so cute.
Because now he's surprised. He's like, "Oh, yes!" They surprise each other.
Yes. And it seems like no one else was there for him either. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
they really relate in that aspect as well.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love Alice's choices of love languages with these people. It's like being present with each other, showing up for each other. It's like that is a love language that we don't really. I know, like
especially when the parents are not showing up for hers.
Yeah, like showing up is definitely its own love language for sure. Showing up, especially when you know it matters to the person that much, that is a big love language, hands down.
I'm glad you said that because I think again it's interesting the fact that Alice wrote this and had no idea about her own sexuality. Yeah. I just find that really interesting because a lot of books like this of like teenagers coming of age, like the hormonal element would come in and kind of cloud everything and make it, sexual on some level in terms of like affection and things like that. But because that's not Alice, like I agree with you. I think there's more of a depth to like what is love really and how can you express it. And yeah, it's so good. I love it. You don't see this often in YA. It gets convoluted with the hormonal aspect, which is not really
No.
happening with a lot of these characters. It's very different, and it's just, I love it. Yeah, that's a really good point. I love that.
I know. That's something you see a lot, especially in friends to lovers books.
Totally.
Like, they can be such well-written characters, such well-developed characters with such a solid friendship since, like, childhood. But next thing you know, oh, now suddenly they're in love and they want to have sex all the time. And it's like, I understand, like, built-up sexual tension, but, like, I don't know, I feel like when you know somebody that far on an emotional level, and this is me speaking as somebody on the ace spectrum, I'm like, I don't know, like, for me, it's so much more like there's already that emotional connection. Why wouldn't I want to just double down on that and then like the sex comes after the fact? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't get it. But
no, I agree with you. I think there's, like you said, there's many ways to show you're affectionate, particularly at this age too, where like that's what you know how to do more than anything else when you're coming into puberty and things like that. So it's refreshing to read that from young characters, who are, expressing love in these kinds of ways of like, I have to be there at this competition. Like that meant everything to Michael. And the fact that Tori is like, I understand how important that is for me to just be there. I love that.
yeah. Oh god, chapter 27.
Unfortunately.
Oh god. This chapter, especially when I first read it, made me feel so morally conflicted because like I hate Ben so much. Like you're supposed to, but also like this is like one of those things I wouldn't wish it on just a person. Like yes, he's done horrible things, but like so Ben basically is Solitaire basically riles up they're at this party and they basically tell them to beat him up. Like every single person in this party to go beat the shit out of him. And they do. They go and they like beat him to the ground and Tori is like freaking out like they're gonna kill him. Oh my god. Of course that's spoiler, that's not what happens. He gets out of it alive. But
Darn.
I just
No,
like
good.
Yeah, like I hate this person, but like I don't want him to die.
Like, no. Also, why are all these people like blindly following this person, telling someone to like inflict violence? Like, it was at that moment like whoever Solitaire was, they're a terrible person.
Right. Like I think that was also a wake up call for Tori too. It's just like, wait a second. No. This is like I already felt shady about this, but no, this is messed up. Hold on. Because it was all pranks, but now it's this. What? So something's out of hand. And of course this is the end of part 1 of the book, so it's like, oh my god. But what breaks my heart is Tori, like, this whole time, she's tried, like, she's been the caretaker role, but she's, like, trying to break out of it, trying to be his sister, Charlie's sister, and not his, like, his mom, basically. And in this moment where, like, she says, to quote, I couldn't stick up for Charlie, and now Solitaire's doing my job for me. I've never been able to do my job properly, I suppose. I'm like, what does she think is her job? And, like, clearly it's something to do with she has to take care of Tori. And to an extent, it could be she's his big sister, but it's like, it feels like it's so much more than that to her. Like, it's more than just a big sister role. Like, she has to be his caretaker in a sense. And obviously it's purely because she loves him and she wants him to be okay. But, ugh. And so she's yeah.
It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, how they are so similar. Like, she doesn't understand how, like, her thoughts are depression, but she can understand, like, what Charlie is going through. So she's like, it's my job to make sure that he doesn't feel like that.
Right. And then she allows herself to step away for, like, a little while to just be a teenager and whatever all goes on with Michael. And then as soon as she does, this happens. He gets punched. And she gets really hurt, and so now she feels like it's my fault that he got hurt. I didn't do what I was supposed to do, when she just put herself first for once in her life. So that's hard. Like,
yeah.
Ugh.
I agree with you. It just, this moment feels bigger, like you said. it's more than just the sibling bond. And I agree with you. I think that it's a guilt thing because she's like, finally, I took off the mom hat and look what happened. Like, and I feel like she feels that way when Charlie relapses, where she's like, I wasn't doing my job and look what happened. So I think this is like a negative a negative reinforcement cycle she's kind of trapped in with Charlie, because she feels more responsible for him than just a normal sibling dynamic, perhaps from like the parents' lack of oversight and things like that. And because she loves him so much, like you said. Yeah, and so poor Tori is having a hard time getting free of the shadow of Charlie and his like his well-being and his mental illness and things like that, so she can be her own person. And this almost like takes her a step back, where she's like, wow, I shouldn't have been so selfish, and like, you know, which is really sad because she's a child too, you know.
Yeah, she's only what, a year older than Charlie? So like ish. She's only a year ahead in school, so it's like, she's not that much older than him.
She's a child, and she's, you know, is forced into adulthood by, you know, these circumstances. So it's sad that she can't just like be a kid, you know. She has to be more than that because she has this responsibility, which is Charlie, whether it's self-imposed or like the actual sad truth of it, that she is the more responsible person in his life, like when it comes to like taking care of him. So it just, it's a lot. And this is the point in the book where I was like, oh damn, Solitaire is much more powerful than I thought they were, and they have mob mentality now, which is never good.
This is when I was like, well, shit's getting real.
Yeah.
So before we get to part 2, I am curious because I was very fixated on who Solitaire was. Did y'all have theories about who was Solitaire while reading?
I did. Did you?
Me? Or Elena?
Yeah, Elena, did you?
Did you have?
I kind of just had bullshit theories, but like I thought it was like, for a while I thought it might be partially Ben, like he was gonna be one of the villains in the story. Ooh. But again, I read Heartstopper before I read this, so I already had a preconceived notion of like, this is the horrible person that Ben is. And then the party happened, and I was like, oh, maybe not. But then I was like, well, but if maybe he was, and then he got kicked out. I don't know. I had like these weird theories about like,
that's a good one.
He could have been, but it kind of was like,
or he wanted to use it for sympathy.
Honestly, that's not beneath Ben.
Yeah, right. Oh my god, literally, episode of season 2.
Right.
My parents would never love me. Okay, but like, you still assaulted Charlie, so like...
Right. Exactly.
I'm pretty sure that I thought it was everyone at some point. Not like all together, but like, I was very paranoid. Like, including Tori. I thought it was Tori. And I thought it was just like, maybe she had dissociative identity disorder. And so, like, she has a system that she doesn't understand, and that's why she feels like her personality changes with people. So, like, I thought that maybe she's, like, really just not aware that she is doing it, and, like, it's someone else taking over.
Yeah, that would track, too, because the things that I found weird about Solitaire was that it's a blog. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, who still uses blogs? Tori uses blogs.
Does, yeah.
Yes.
Like, so I'm like, it is I knew from the beginning it was connected to Tori, because I'm just like, they're using a blog like Tumblr, I assume. And I'm like, not many people are on Tumblr at this point in time, but Tori is. So that's atypical. So it has to be somebody who still uses blogs. And they kept bringing up the fact that Tori was getting these like messages on the blog from like anon requests that are kind of weird. And I'm like, I feel like that's connected. At the beginning, I thought it was Michael Holden, but I was like, because he's new, the Solitaire is new. So I'm like, the timing makes sense, but it's kind of too obvious because he was in the room when she discovered it, but also like maybe. But then I thought for a really long time it was Lucas, because I was just like, why? He's like, because it seemed connected to her from the beginning. So I was like, the Star Wars thing, she mentioned she likes Star Wars. And I'm like, that's weird. What a weird coincidence. I don't think that's a coincidence that Alice is putting this in here. And then Lucas comes up out of nowhere and she's like, oh, childhood friend. So I was like, okay, so he knew her when she liked Star Wars. I thought it was him for like the very longest time. But then like towards the middle of the book with the Ben stuff, I'm like, I don't know. this could be somebody, like anybody. This could be a group of people, because like when the mob started happening, I'm like, I don't think this is one person anymore. I think there's a group that's trying to disrupt the school. Who has it out for the school? Yeah.
I thought it was Becky during all of that because she kept saying, Tori, I want you to be happy. I want you. So, and like this person knew her. So I was thinking that Becky secretly had a crush on Tori. So she wanted her to be happy, and she's like obsessed with Tori.
I can see that.
And then she wanted to talk all about the guy she was having all the sex with. Ooh.
Throw her off the set.
That would have been such a good gay storyline. Dang it.
What a twist. But yeah, it became very obvious at one point, even before Tori figured it out. I'm like, somebody's obsessed with Tori, and who is obsessed with Tori? Or Becky would have been a good one too. Yeah.
No, to your point too, Theora, like, the second time I read this, having already known, like, obviously, going back and reading it, I was like, I'm dumb. Like, I see all the signs now. Like, oh my god, it makes so much more sense. I feel so stupid. But it's like, first time reading it.
No.
You don't know.
Absolutely. And like Solitaire, it's like, especially when you're reading it for the first time, it's like it's there, but it's not. Like you kind of forget about it, a lot of until you get towards like this part, like towards the crescendo of like the end of part 1 and into part 2. It's a lot more about Solitaire. But like you forget about it, and that's how I was feeling about. And I'm like, it's the name of the book. Like I feel like it has to come back. And the fact that like Lucas has the same trajectory where he's like introduced and you forget about him. He follows the same trajectory as Solitaire. That's why I was like, I feel like it's him, because why introduce him, do nothing with him? I feel like he's part of something, because like he's like this ghost in the background. I'm like, why bring him back and put him in the book? That was the only reason I was like fixated on him, because I'm like, he's really seems like a random character that knows her really well, like this weird blog. But the blog part was like weird, where I was just like, this is connected to Tori, because who's blogging? They're using Facebook. Instagram is like the social media of choice at Heartstopper. So I was like, this is weirdly specific to Tori. But anyway.
It's like I was watching a TV show, and the plot, it was a comedy, and they were reading the story, and but the last page was missing. And there was like a murder, and they're trying to figure out who did it. And they're like, obviously it's this person, obviously this person. They find the author, and they're like, oh, it was the butler. And they're like, you mean the character who only opened the door in the first page and was never talked about again? He's like, yeah, no one would expect it.
That's fucked
That's
up.
so cool.
That's just mean.
I love that.
And then they fan fiction the ending. It was like, it was all of the people who we thought. Yeah.
That's so wild.
I never forgot about Solitaire. That was like the main point. I was like, who is it? I've watched too much Pretty Little Liars.
Who's doing it? Who is A? Yeah.
Yeah.
Should have known it was multiple people from then. All right.
Part 2 thoughts.
Part 2.
A lot happens in part 2. Oh my god. Ugh. I mean, first of all, Tori immediately, like, right off the bat, in the first, like, the very beginning of part 2, she thinks that she's this bad guy. Like, she's falling back into this. Like, she has so much progression in the first part, like, in thinking, like, finding the support system. And now she's, like, falling back into this headspace. She is a villain. She is nothing. And she starts, like, acting on this villain role that she thinks that she is. And she even says, like, she's being mean to the people around her. She knows it. She feels like a horrible person, and she doesn't know why she does it. And then, when, like, she's actively, like, mean to Lucas. And then when she texts him and apologizes later, and he just says it's fine, she's like, why are you just, like, why can't you be mad at me? Like, you can tell she's frustrated, because she's like, no, be mad at me, please. Like, somebody, like, be angry at what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is terrible. Which is so interesting.
Yeah, it's like she's lashing out, which is different than what Tori used to do. And like basically the behavior she got from Lucas is kind of like the behavior she was giving Becky at the beginning, where it's just Tori wasn't engaging, and this is Lucas not engaging. So it's like the roles are reversed, and now she's like, oh, I see how this feels, and this sucks. I want you to want to maintain our friendship, basically. And it's like you're giving up, which was Tori at the beginning. So 180 character behavior for her, which is really, really interesting. And a big thing in part 2, we didn't write any of this down, but I'll just go into it, is like the epic conclusion of Solitaire, which was burn the school down, which we get here. This
Seriously,
is wild.
though, why is burning the school down what they want to do?
Yeah, because they're just like, I guess they're like patience kills, and then they're like, school is ruining everybody's lives. It's making Tori unhappy. Let's burn it to the, because they move into like this anarchy position, right? Versus just like disruptive and charming, and it's just like burn it. Like the way it escalates is like wild.
I want to see the repercussions of this because,
Me
like,
too,
jail
right?
time, and like at the end, it looks like it would be Michael and Tori because they stay in this freaking burning school and they're on top of the building. Like there needs to be another book where like they're framed now for burning down this school.
You have to write that fan fiction now, Kaitlynn.
Literally.
What
happened?
I don't
This
have
was
the time.
wild.
Someone else do it and send it to us, like
Please,
we asked
it
with
exists.
all of our fanfic ideas.
Yeah,
This
I did
was
somebody
wild.
else.
And just also like, I'm sorry, the ending of this book is just wild. The school's on fire. Michael and Tori are on the roof, and they're just like, "Yes, I love you." Which great, yeah, sure. Like it's the crescendo.
After
just, like,
Tori almost jumps off the building.
correct. It was crazy.
It's
And then-
wild.
I feel like this happens really fast. The ending, and then Tori has the moment where she like, because she again, it's like Tori, I feel alone. I don't matter. Michael's here. You matter. That's kind of what's happening. Then she looks out on the expanse of the school grounds, and like the town is there. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. The whole
my
town's
God.
there, including
Or the school's been burning for an hour.
the
Which,
school's been
also,
burning.
I was waiting for the roofs to collapse.
Right.
I'm like, it's burning underneath you.
Right, like you guys are fucked. Exactly.
Like, how are you getting down?
Questions that need answers. Exactly, but like
You
Tori's
jumped,
moment-
apparently.
But like Tori's big moment is like, we're not alone, and like Charlie's there, Nick's there. She finally feels supported, standing on a burning building. Like the symbolism and everything is real great, but I'm like, practically, how do they get out of there?
Yeah.
Who's going to jail for arson?
That's all I could think about is that, like, so you can't burn down a school. And also, I'm thinking of, like, how much money it's going to take to rebuild this school
Oh my
and all
God,
of that logistics.
How long is Higgs out of commission? That's why I was like, does everybody end up at Trum in the meantime?
That's what they
Like,
said,
school's
but,
still
like,
happening.
they can't fit everybody in that
Right.
school.
I have
No.
so
So,
many
like,
questions
that's
about
all I could
this.
think about was the logistics of everything.
Me too.
And I could not focus on the story. Which I know is
man.
not the point, but that is just so, like,
Yeah, I
me
was
to
just like,
focus
how
on
does
that
this play
stuff.
out after? I have so many questions.
I know, they're literally in the car at the end, and it's Charlie who is asked, where are you gonna go next year? Not Tori. Hey, your school's burnt down. Where are you gonna go, Tori? It's Charlie, because Charlie's been going through this conflict of where are you gonna go? I'll stay at Trum. But what
Yeah,
about Tori?
He's like, I guess we're all going to Trum now.
The fire decided for everybody.
If my sister's there, I'll stay there. That works. You know what? That's fair. I
That
mean,
was wild.
yeah. Oh, man.
Well, yeah, I really want to know what
Ugh.
happens because none of the people who actually committed arson
Yeah.
are there, and Michael technically made it worse because he threw the freaking fire extinguisher
Right.
out the window.
That's got his
Which-
fingerprints on it.
Yeah,
And he stayed
exactly.
in the building.
Everyone sees them on the roof. Like, they have to get them down. The administrators are like, come to my... Oh, I can't even come to my office. It's on fire. Like, come to the jail. Like, you
Oh,
know?
It looks like they're like proud of it because they're on the roof showing everybody. They're like, I am the villain.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Should we, like the Supergirl pose?
It was wild. Besides all the wildness, though, we do get, Tori and Michael and their kiss, which is really cute. And just like, I don't know. The conclusion of their relationship was really sweet by the end.
I know,
And-
especially the snow scene, like, what is it, like, halfway
Yes.
through part 2, like, Tori and Michael to get to just be teenagers hanging out on the field in the snow, and I was
That was
like,
cute.
I love, just, they just got to be kids and have fun together,
Yes.
and they got to be alone and just, like, be human, and I loved that part.
Yeah, I agree. Tori doesn't get many moments like that, so that was really, really special. For her to have to do it and then have somebody to share it with was also big.
Right.
Yeah.
I found the scene where the firecrackers, I believe, or the fireworks
The
were going
fireworks.
Oh,
off,
at the festival,
concert.
yeah.
and how she was just like, I have a choice now. Like, do I run or do I
Yeah,
just
this
stay
could
here?
kill me. And she just freezes. That's wild.
Yeah. That was scary with Tori. Yeah. And poor Michael's in the frozen water. Like, can you get over here?
Also, poor Charlie, like, having like, I look at, like, from Charlie's perspective in this second part, like, just the progression that he has seen. Like, he's at the festival, he sees Tori almost get blown up,
Yeah.
and, like, he's like, Tori, like, because I think he's literally, like, screaming at her from, like,
Yeah.
what is it, across the river, and he's like, Tori, get out of there! And she doesn't move, like, the panic he probably had. And then after that, like, I'm trying to remember, is it this, I mean, obviously, like, yes, there's the when the school burns down, but I feel like there's something before that he also sees. Maybe that's it that I'm thinking of. But then he, like, sees her.
Yeah, the roles
Almost.
reverse for them.
Yeah, and then he
Yeah.
sees her almost jump, and he's like, oh my god. I think, doesn't he at the very end even say something like he never really noticed that she was dealing with
Yeah.
stuff?
Yes.
He's like, how did I not see this coming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he has to take her to the hospital, like force her to go to the hospital and
Right.
get her wounds cared for. 'Cause she's like, I don't want to go. It's, yeah, their roles are exactly reversed. And this is the whole, like, when the people closest to you don't see what's really going on. And Charlie's like, oh, I missed all the signs. You were not doing well because I've been focused on me and what I'm going through, and you were focused on me. So, yeah, it's a big role reversal, like you said.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And then it ends with him saying, I love you, Tori, and she says, I love you too. Like,
Oh,
it's such a simple little thing, but that warmed my heart because they never say it.
No.
Like, and they haven't said it in the show at all. They haven't, like, yes, obviously, like we've said before, like, you don't have to say I love you to say I love you, but, like, just to hear them say it out loud, especially after, like, how internalizing everything they have been, just to say it out loud, both just very out and proud, especially surrounded by everybody else in the car, like, no shame. It's just, like, I mean, obviously, like, they'd love each other, like, that's obvious, like, they knew that, but for them, it's, like, such a vulnerable thing to say out loud. So I thought that just warmed my heart so much. Like, their sibling relationship is, like, probably one of my favorites in media, like, ever. I just love it so much. So
yeah.
It's
a cute moment.
All right, now I really want to know what the difference between the original version and the new version is.
Tell us.
I only ever listened to the audiobook in the original version. So this is kind of just what I remember. I remember Charlie's relapse. Both Charlie's relapse episode and Ben's assault on him were both a lot more graphic. So, like, in his relapse, there's a lot more details in the original version of, like, there's blood, there is, like, it's a little bit more graphic, and it's very heartbreaking. And she didn't, like, take out too much, but there's even, I think if I remember right, her monologue where she's yelling at Nick on the phone is a lot longer in the original version too. Like, she is cussing him out on the phone for a while in the original version. And so I think, like, just for the sake of brevity, she cut that down a little bit in this new version. But then even when Ben hits Charlie, I think in this version, he basically just punches him. But in the original version, he beats him.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, it's a lot more graphic. And I think part of what I really appreciate, Alice even says, like, yeah, I wrote this when I was, like, a teenager. So, like, I had a much more different viewpoint on everything. And, like, my writing style was very different. And obviously this was before Heartstopper, because Heartstopper was inspired by this. So I appreciate that, like, when she rewrote and republished this book, she kind of made it to where a lot of, like, those scenes specifically were a little bit more vague, like, less graphic, but also just a little bit more ambiguous, so it leaves a lot to the imagination. To where you could just be like, you can either fill in the gaps, or you don't have to think about it. Like, if it's triggering for you, you don't have to even consider it. You just are like, oh, this is what happened. So, yeah, I do appreciate that she didn't try to, like, what's the word, saturated or sanitize it. She didn't try to sanitize it or anything. It just like she made it less unnecessarily graphic, and I appreciated that. Yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess that kind of makes sense on a couple of levels, the fact that she rewrote it after Heartstopper, because I think even in the republishing, there's a trigger warning in there specifically about Heartstopper, where she says, hey, if you're a fan of Heartstopper, just know the tone of this book is very, very different than Heartstopper. So I also wonder if she made some of those choices in mind, knowing how big Heartstopper was, and she's like, oh, people are going to want to read this, and the tones are different. Maybe I should try to match it a little bit more, because perhaps that audience is not prepared to see something so graphic happening to Charlie, you know? So I wonder if that was part of the choice.
And obviously, like, her message has, like, warped it has evolved. Like, with Heartstopper especially, like, it's all about hope. It's all about, like, everything will be okay in the end. And so, like, I feel like she still wanted to keep a little bit of that tone in this by kind of reducing a little bit more of the dark side.
Yeah.
And focusing more on the aftermath, which is they have support. They have these people who are wanting to help. And so I think that was a really big step for her to kind of keep on brand with her message that she's trying to get across, which is, Yeah,
I agree with that. And I do like the ending here too, where it's open-ended, and like there's still that element of, well, we're still not sure what the future holds or what's going to happen, but we're just going to carry on, which is life. And especially at that age where it's like, yes, you don't have everything figured out. You don't know what's going to happen next, but it's okay. And change is going to happen. And we just hope it's going to be some more good days than bad days. And that was basically the message of Solitaire at the end. And so I do like that, because her messages like that to me are why I enjoy Alice's writing so much, because that's real life. And that's very grounding in fiction. And so I like that she had that open-ended, we don't have all the answers, and that's okay ending. I just love that. It's particularly in a YA novel where it's like, that's reality for those characters. They don't know what's going to happen next, and that's okay. They have each other, like you said, and I thought that was great.
And especially if one of them goes to jail, at least they have a lot of visitors.
I need to know who goes to jail. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
All right. Before we wrap up, any last thoughts about Solitaire, Tori?
Just want to know who goes to jail.
That's valid.
If you like audiobooks, highly recommend this audiobook, because the actress who plays Tori in the show is the narrator in this new redone version, and she does a really great job. I love her very dearly.
Yeah, I kind of want to listen to it now.
Yeah, Jenny Walser is awesome. She is the perfect Tori.
Literally, yes, the perfect Tori. Yeah, the first time I actually read the book Solitaire, the second time around I listened to that audiobook, and it was really nice having her voice, because like it's like Tori's reading you the book, and it was really great.
It literally is.
It was so good. She is the perfect Tori, though. Like, just the delivery is very like dry. It's perfect. Yeah.
I doubt that they're going to incorporate anything from the book into Heartstopper season 3. Honestly, like, I think Alice has said that she doesn't plan on it, but I do want to see a lot more Tori, and obviously we're getting Michael. Thank God.
Yeah. So I wonder if like his personality from the book will end up in the show, like that kind of like Solitaire homage versus like actual scenes from Solitaire.
Right.
So yeah.
Because where are they going to go when they burn down the school?
Oh my God.
Right? They are going to put that in the show, right? Like,
I know.
that happens.
So
like,
and they explain it, like, they don't like explain the Solitaire thing in the background. They're just like, Higgs is on fire.
But then you just see like Darcy will definitely have like so many jokes about.
She would. Could you imagine like Elle, especially like in the show canon, going to Lambert, and now she's like, well, I dodged a bullet.
Right? That'd be so funny, actually.
I feel like Becky, especially with my theory that she likes Tori, I feel like Becky's a little bit like Imogen.
Ooh. Oh, maybe. Love me some Imogen. We're definitely getting that concert scene that we talked about when we were musing at the volume 5 discussion, because there's shots of them all in their outfits. So like, Imogen does come to that.
I'm
Stars on
very
stage.
excited
I
for
just
it.
can't wait. Okay, it's gonna be great. Anyway, all right. Before we go off the rails, talking about season 3, which soon we're getting it so soon.
October.
Yes, we're almost there.
Ah.
We will be back to talk about all of that. I literally cannot wait. I think we're all excited here. But
Oh, yeah.
let's wrap up Solitaire with our Lesbian Jesus hydration scale. If you're new here, basically this is a super scientific thing we came up using gay science where we rate a piece of media based on how important we feel it is into the lexicon of queer media. And we hydrate because water, like queer media, is essential for life. So, how much would you hydrate for Lesbian Jesus? I'll go first. However much diet lemonade Tori drinks in a day. That's how much I would hydrate for Lesbian Jesus.
This is a hard question, because does Lesbian Jesus, because obviously the Jesus from the traditional
book.
idea, yes, from the book, the OG book, converts water to wine. What does Lesbian Jesus convert water to? That's my question.
Diet lemonade.
Diet lemonade.
Is that okay? I'll have whatever they're having.
I
How
will
about yours,
hydrate with all the water that was not used to put out the fire.
That's so much water, and that's how much we appreciate Solitaire.
That's so true. That's so funny. Well done, Kaitlynn.
Thank
That
you.
was
I just thought of it. I'm really stuck on this burning building.
You know,
I
what a
mean,
banger.
fair.
But you know what I'm about to be stuck on? And I kind of already am because I already read it. But our next book club is Dear Wendy by Anne Zhao. Zhao. No, I said that wrong. Yeah. Zhao, I believe it is. Anyway, it's a love story, but not the kind you'd expect.
So if you're into Solitaire, this is right up your alley.
Yes.
Want to give the synopsis? So I can give the synopsis if you
You
want.
can give this synopsis.
Here's the synopsis. Dear Wendy's, Sophie and Joe, two aromantic and asexual students at Wellesley College, engage in an online feud while unknowingly becoming friends in real life. It's super, super queer. It's really cute. If you like YA type stuff, it's set in college. The protagonists are really great. Look at how cute they are. And
All the characters.
yes, all the characters. We had the pleasure of talking to Anne about this book. So in our next episode that comes out next month, we'll release that or we get Anne's thoughts on writing this book. This is her first novel.
Yes, ever. It's great.
Ever. It's really great. And she's a Arrow Ace person herself and wrote this book for the representation aspect. And it's really fun and cute. So if you like Solitaire, it's not dark like Solitaire, but
No.
no, but it's got a lot of those like showing love in different kind of aspects kind of way. So like it's really cute.
It's very cute. I love it. There's some Taylor Swift references in it as well.
There sure is. That we asked Anne about. That's coming. Anyway, but if you have a suggestion for a book you would like us to cover, if you want more Heartstopper volumes or anything like that, please let us know. We would be super happy to dive into that. Or anything by Alice. We will probably cover more Alice books in the future because they're also good. Let's be honest. And but that's all we got for today. So until next time, keep hydrating for Lesbian Jesus however you want. We gave various ways you could do that in our wrap up.
And gay it up all over the place, just maybe not in Burning Higgs building.
Yeah, don't do that. Anywhere else. Bye.
Bye.
Stay safe. And with that, we've been Big Gay Energy. If you like this episode, check out all our other episodes right here on YouTube.
Please like, leave a comment below, and subscribe for more amazing super gay content.